Namibia's media fraternity recently held a silent protest in solidarity with journalists who lost their lives doing their jobs. The march called for an end to impunity for crimes against journalists. Check this out.
There's always more to their story. In the midst of their duty to recite reality, they bring to the surface that which is unseen. But if you dove deeper, if you broke it at the seams, you will find that there's more to their stories, more than what is heard, more than what is written, and more than what is said. So arduous is their journey to the source, but we find ourselves persecuted. So anxious is the tale of the truth, and still we find ourselves waiting for its reveal. We are the goods. We are the greater goods fools. Violated for feeding the people food for thought, and yet here they are, intimidated, forgetting those out of the box because of food for thought, thoughts that are left to stand shoulder to shoulder and targeted and broken down by military-style shots. You will find there is more to their story, more than what is heard, more than what is written, more than what is said.
We say to journalists all over the world who are facing persecution for doing their jobs that they are not alone. We stand with them. Our reality in Namibia may be quite different. We have not witnessed the killing of journalists, arbitrary arrests, kidnappings, but we cannot turn a blind eye when colleagues elsewhere are killed, languish in jails, and live in fear of persecution simply for doing their jobs. This particular day, November 2nd, was proclaimed by the United Nations as the International Day to end impunity for crimes against journalists. Today is a day of reflection. It is an opportunity to focus our attention on journalists who are being persecuted, forcibly disappeared or killed, and giving priority to the number and numerous unsolved crimes against journalists. What we have to reflect on is that the pervasive nature of impunity is not something that emerges suddenly. The culture of impunity intensifies over a lengthy period of time when people in positions of power and authority continue unchecked for crimes committed against journalists. This day is an opportunity for journalists and media rights organizations to demonstrate and garner public support across borders to demand answers from governments on why they are expending energy, time and resources in persecuting the media instead of probing corruption. On this day, it is important to remind the world that Cameroonian journalist Samuel Wazizi's death cannot go unsolved. Samuel was picked up by the military nearly a year ago. It took 10 months for them to admit that they held him and that he had died basically 3 days after he was arrested in custody. Today, nearly a day after his death, his body has not been returned to his family. They have not been able to bury him, and no investigation is underway. We must demand that the Mozambican government seriously investigate the disappearance of Ibrahim Bakaru, who went missing on April 7th. The last words before he disappeared was a text to a colleague saying, "I'm surrounded by the military. Where is Ibrahim?" We should be asking for updates on the murders of undercover Ghanaian journalist Ahmed Hussam Swale, Marco Agay Makwar in South Sudan, and Nigerian journalist Benjamin Eko. We have to express our outrage that for the 6th year running, Somalia retains the #1 position on the Global Impunity Index when it comes to prosecuting murderers of journalists. It is up to us to support Somalian media and demand that authorities investigate cases of killings or attacks on journalists, media outlets and critics. We should stand with them and support their demands for justice. Standing in solidarity on home soil is vital, what we are doing today. But why is it necessary to collectively come together on issues far removed from our realities? For journalists operating in difficult environments, acts of solidarity from colleagues are a lifeline. Standing in solidarity is one of the most powerful countermeasures to an excess of power. Collective continental voices remind brazen governments that state-sanctioned misdeeds will not go unnoticed. It becomes even more powerful, a tool as it reverberates across borders and continents. So, again, today we say to all our Namibian colleagues, to all our colleagues across the world, continue to speak truth to power. Be bold in your effort to uncover wrongdoing. When they come for you, remember you are not alone. We stand with you. May we have a moment of silence before we disperse.